Welcome, everyone. We are super fortunate to have today with us Mary Nahorniak, guiding us through Pinpoint, which is an amazing tool, amazing resource. And we're going to get some hands-on tips on how to make use of it, some examples of how others are using it, and some inspiration to get started for each of us and how we can make use of this. And Mary mentioned to me that there are some new features which we're going to hear about, which is really exciting. So a lot of good stuff to get to. Mary is a veteran journalist, has been a leader at the Baltimore Sun, as well as at the USA Today Network, was one of the first people really focusing on audience engagement and thinking about audiences not just as people that we throw stuff over a wall to, but as people that we engage with on a regular basis and have a relationship with and interact with. At the journalism school here at CUNY, the City University where I teach, we have a whole new program in engagement journalism, and it's people like Mary who kind of helped establish some of the approaches that we now teach in our school and are taught elsewhere, and journalists are increasingly trying to embody. So Mary's a great leader to talk about how journalists can make use of these new kinds of tools to make better use of all the information that we're gathering and engage with our communities in creative new ways. So I'm going to stop there. I really am excited to have everyone here joining us. I'm Jeremy Kaplan, by the way. I write Wonder Tools, and I wrote a column about this resource, Pinpoint, and I think that's how many of you are here. Thank you for joining for this live session. It's, I think, different to read something and then to engage with someone who actually can explain it and guide us through it. So thanks, Mary, for being here. If everyone who's here wants to just chime in the chat, you can just share with us briefly where you're joining from in terms of place and organization, and maybe something you're working on. I always find it nice, even if we can't engage with each other in a conversation fully with everyone here, I always find it nice to at least just know who's in the room and in the space, and maybe someone can make a connection with someone else if that's useful or relevant for you. So thanks to all who are joining for doing that. We'll have about 45 minutes for this session, including these warm-up minutes. And it's a nice, tight, concise way to hopefully get your feet into this new service. If you're interested in this and want to learn more, reach out to me. Or if there are other sessions you're excited about learning about, please be in touch as well about that. Thanks, Mary, for hosting. The floor is yours.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeremy. Hi, everyone. I'm so glad to see you all here. This is definitely looking very quorumy, but a nice looking group. So I've dropped a little warm-up survey in the chat, nothing serious, just thinking about what we are going to look at today. I'm going to share my screen as well. So Pinpoint is our topic for today. This is another way to access the warm-up survey. If you prefer to do it on your phone, you can visit this link and you can type in this code. I'm assuming we're all mostly on our computer, so it's easier to click the link. And seeing such a nice group of people and all the things that you're working on in the chat. So I will say I love for it to feel like a conversation. I know this is an engaged group around tools in particular and journalistic tools. So please put questions in the chat. Feel free to just unmute and interrupt me. I love that. Not everybody loves to be interrupted, but I'm one of those people. It allows me to catch my breath, take a sip of water, hear your questions. And I don't want to just steamroll to the end when we're 30 minutes past what your question was about. So the way that we'll organize our training for today, just to kind of start with an intro of the tool. We will look at it and do a live demo. New features are rolling out with this every week, including something brand new today that's a small thing, but it really helps for workflow. And then toward the end, share just some case studies of the newsrooms that are using this in the US. I'll also just start kind of big picture for sharing. Let me just type into the chat how you can access it. And it's free, and there's no like tier paid or anything like that. It is free. It's a resource meant for journalists and for academics. So if you're one of those two types of people, you can sign up. You just need to fill out a little Google form, essentially saying who you are and that's the kind of work that you do, and you'll gain access usually rather quickly, often within the day. So, all right. I'm Mary Nahorniak. Jeremy did a nice intro, so I won't go deep on myself. We have a limited amount of time. I'll just share. You're welcome to reach out to me with any questions on this tool, any other tools. I'd love to connect with you, so feel free to do that. And just a little bit of kind of overview for why Google does these trainings. Of course, this tool Pinpoint is really powerful. We have created it for you to do your work better. And I think that when I think about this quote from Sundar, our CEO, the way that this makes sense to me is when people come to search and they're looking for information, we want to make sure that they are landing on good quality, reliable, trustworthy information. By and large, or much of that comes from journalists. So we want to make sure that we're supporting that work, supporting the industry. There are a lot of ways that we do that. My focus is on training. So that's what we'll talk about today. And I also want to share that Pinpoint is part of Journalist Studio, which is a set of tools that were either created specifically for journalists or have specific journalistic use cases. For example, Google Trends, which you see on here, which is an old friend to many of us. So just know that that is a set of other interesting things to explore. And again, I'm available to do trainings on any of those if that's useful for you or for your folks. Great. All right, let's talk about Pinpoint. I think some of you have also probably signed up for the tool. So why is my slide not moving? I don't know. Hang on one second. Troubleshooting slide. I just dropped this one in and that may be the problem. There we go. All right. So Pinpoint is a way of organizing large document sets. And I'm going to say the word document a bunch, and it starts to feel like it loses its meaning a little bit as I say it. And of course, when I say document and when you hear it, we're probably thinking of things like PDFs and Word documents. Pinpoint can handle all types of documents. So I'll talk about what those are and what it supports. I'll show you where you can access what it supports. But it's a way of making sense of those large document sets. The classic use case would be you've put out a public records request and you've now gotten your records back, maybe after some large amount of time has passed, or hopefully short if you're lucky. And you know there are stories in there and you know there are ways of making sense of it, but you just haven't found them yet. You don't know exactly what they are. You have a sense of it. Once you've uploaded your documents into Pinpoint, it's going to analyze them for you and tell you who is most mentioned, so the names of people most frequently mentioned, the organizations, and the places. So it quickly gives you a sense of who shows up a lot in this document set, which can be a path you may want to go down. And then you can search through it in some really powerful ways, including some search functionality that is not baked into other tools. So we're going to go over some of that. Some of it is very cool. So this is a little bit of what the search looks like. You can search through handwriting. You can see that here. We can find text that's either on or in a photo, like signage in the background, that kind of thing. So if you're looking for a particular reference to something, Pinpoint is a really powerful way of pulling that out of your document set. Speaking of documents, these are the ones that Pinpoint supports, and there should be one little extra icon here for video. So that's a pretty new feature. Pinpoint will transcribe audio and video files. Video is new, audio is not new. That is a way that many folks find their way into the tool. Audio transcription is a drag. It takes a lot of time. This is a tool that can really help you do it, thinking about we have limited time in a day, limited energy. It's something that can do the heavy lifting for you. It can do it in multiple languages, which is pretty amazing. I'll show you where we can find the language settings. And again, video is newer. That's probably about 2 months old. So you can upload any manner of video file and you're going to get a transcript. So thinking about, of course, what is said in this video, but also I used it a couple of weeks ago. I had to watch a 90-minute webinar that I had missed the live play of, and I was avoiding it because 90 minutes is a long time to watch something in general and something that's not live. And instead, once the video transcription showed up, I tossed it into Pinpoint. I waited a little bit and I was able to read that transcript much faster than I can watch a 90-minute video. So there are a lot of really interesting ways that you can use the tool. I also find that with tools in general, and this is probably true for some of you, that once I have used it, played with it, maybe I wasn't using it on deadline or in a pressing kind of way, but it's now part of my toolbox. So I start thinking of new ways to use it, like that video transcription. There's no limit to how you use it. Once you're in there, it's yours to make sense of. Let me just pause, just checking. I don't think there are any questions in the chat. Jeremy, correct me if I'm wrong.
Oh, you're
Otherwise,
good.
I'll
You're
keep
great.
going.
Yep,
Okay,
yep, you're great.
Awesome.
Thanks.
This is entity extraction. This I mentioned. So the most mentioned people, organizations, and locations. And I believe, yeah, we're almost at the demo. I also want to let you know that collections, so that's your set of documents, can be shared with others. Right now, the way that you would think of that sharing is as like a view only, the way that you would share a Google Doc. So the people that you share it with can look at your collection, but they can't make changes to it. So they can't use some of the features like editing transcripts or removing or adding files. And there may be down the road the ability for folks that you share it with to have more functionality. But one of the ways I think this is sort of a pro at the moment is if you're building a large document set that you don't want someone else making changes, that you don't want somebody else accidentally removing your files, things like that. And the folks that you share it with don't have to have Pinpoint accounts in order to use it or look at the things that you're sharing. I will also say too that right now, we'll look at some public collections. There is not a way to share your documents with your audience. So this is really at this point in time meant for the reporting part of the process. If you want to embed documents in a story or some other functionality like that, you would need to use a different tool like a Script or a Document Cloud. Okay, this slide is my cue to head over to the tool. So that's what we're going to do. Jump in if there are questions right now before I go deep on this demo. Okay, we are headed into Pinpoint. I'm just going to switch accounts here and logging in. So the first thing that you would see when you sign in, this menu here just got revamped. You will probably see the page of Explore Collections, or you can simply click to it. So before we go into our own collections, just know that there are a large number of publicly available public documents that organizations like Center for Public Integrity, like the Washington Post, have made available through partnership with Pinpoint for us to use, explore, look at. I'll just click into this one. These are the court filings in the Mueller report. And we can just quickly see these are all of the documents. There are 48. That's a good opportunity for me to mention space. There are, I don't remember exactly how much you get when you sign up, but it's something like 200 gigs. Pinpoint does not detract from the space that you have in Gmail or Google Drive. So it's its own set of space. And if you're using it for important work and you're running out of space, and I haven't known anyone yet to do that, but if that happens to you, please reach out to the Pinpoint team and they would love to work with you on gaining more space. I also mentioned audio transcription, so I don't want to forget to say that the limit on audio and video files to be transcribed is 2 hours. If you have something longer, just chop it up. And it takes about as long as a file is in order for it to be transcribed. So about a 1-to-1 ratio, excuse me. So we see the documents here. We see the people that are mentioned most often, not surprisingly, in this set of documents is Robert Mueller, the organizations, and the locations. I'll also just click on this because it's not just the 5 most mentioned, it's everyone. Any name or anything that Google understands to be a name that shows up in the document set is here. And if we click on any one of them, it's going to show us every document where that person is mentioned. If a person is a public figure that has nicknames or other ways of referring to them, they will also be condensed together. So we call that synonym search. You can't do that for private citizens and you can't like upload your own knowledge graph. But again, if Google understands that a reference to Donald Trump or Donald J. Trump is the same person, which Google does understand that, they're going to be all showing up here together, right? So let me head back over to Explore. So just so you know, these are there for your purposes. Very soon we'll be able to filter this, probably by language. Not sure exactly what that'll look like, but that's on its way and we're going to start to see more public collections. And I do have a case study that I'll get to at the end, talking about how someone did use these for to find an interesting story for their own reporting. I'm going to head over to my workspace. The other thing I wanted to show you in kind of a global sense are the language settings. So up here under account settings, we have 2 language settings. The first is entity display language, which is essentially means my documents are in this language. And then audio files, also video files included here, of course. So what language is my file using? And here you can make changes. So there are I think about 15. We've added Ukrainian and Russian this year, which is important for news purposes. Spanish, French, Dutch, etc. So one hack, if you have files in multiple languages, you would change this before you upload the next file. So if my next file is going to be in English, I need to make sure this says English. And if I then have one in Spanish, I'm going to change this to Spanish before I upload that item. So that's sort of how you get around that. You can't change the language setting per collection or per document. You can only do it in this global sense. So that gets to Alex's question. Okay, great. And then we do have more languages available for entity display. It's easier for Google to understand those in published documents versus spoken. We don't release these until they are very good. So there are, as I said, about 12 to 15 of them. So that's where that lives. Let's demo a little bit of the search functionality. I'm going to go into this collection of NASA documents. Let me actually do one thing before we do that. So I'm going to go into my collection here. You can see I created it. It has this little lock showing that it's private. I haven't shared this with anyone yet. I could if I wanted to. If I click on that, I'm going to upload a video file into here, and we're going to let that work while we go demo something else. So just to show you kind of what it looks like to add a document, you just create, if you haven't created your collection, you would do that first. In this case, I already have one called video transcriptions. I'm going to go grab this video file. This is an MP4 of a video downloaded from TikTok, and it uses mostly correct language of a real video of Kamala Harris talking about folks with COVID being hospitalized. I won't talk through this whole thing now because we're going to look at it once it's done. But it's about a 1:40 video that we'll be able to go look at. So you can see here it's processing. We're going to let that work while we do something else. I call that the cooking show version, where we go, let that go in the background. Later, I'll show you the fully finished file. We're going to head into this NASA document set. I see Nico has a question. Can you upload SQL databases or CSV? Yes and no, or no and yes, rather. So I'm going to click on add documents. Oh, I can't. This isn't my collection. Let me just get to a place where I can answer that for you. We're going to make a new collection in order to do that. So we're going to call it Wonder Tools. And this is where you can see everything that's supported. So I clicked on the plus sign here, and you won't see SQL here, but you will see CSV. So no and yes in that order to your question. So again, this is how you can see what's supported. Lots of audio file types, lots of video file types, et cetera, and everything you would expect. Also relatively new is the ability to bring in Google Drive files, and that docs and slides are supported. So that was a frequently requested feature that wasn't too difficult to roll out. Okay, back to NASA. So this is a collection of about 1,300 documents, all mostly related to the Apollo missions. And so again, here's what we've got in terms of what they look like. And then here's who we have, who shows up most often. Not surprisingly, we see astronauts, we see presidents, and we see the organizations mentioned most often: NASA, Capcom, DoD. Locations, I always find this one charming that Earth is in there because it's a location and it shows up a lot in NASA documents, and particularly in transcriptions. So again, this gives you that sense of what do I have. I may still print out and read all 800 documents that I got back from the mayor's office, or I may come in here and just get started and see where I'm headed, where my story is headed, or I may do both, right? So this is a way that you can get to stories on deadline a little bit faster than having to parse everything. I want to show you some of that search functionality. So again, hope this kind of just what we're looking at here is making sense. I want to show you the text with an image that we talked about. I'm searching for STDN. It brings up this file. This was a photo. And you can see this green highlighter is applied by Pinpoint. I know it's a little bit tiny, but hopefully you can see it has found the letters STDN, which is the Spacecraft Tracking and Data Acquisition Network within NASA, on this person's console. I assume this person works for that, but I would check with the source certainly. But if I am doing a story on that, or I want to find every reference to that network within NASA, this is something I might want to see. Gives me a sense of what it might look like to work there, what kinds of things they might have on their screen. The rest of this is very tiny in the photo and is probably not searchable. But if something is legible, it is searchable. So if Pinpoint can read the letters, even when they're tiny, it can find it on a search like that. Let's see. I want to also show you the handwriting, which is another excellent feature. I'm going to click on this document here. So I've searched for the words Loomis and state, and it's just loading, but I can see it has found them here with my green highlighter. So here's Loomis, typewritten, easy to read. And here's the word state, which is sideways, cursive, pretty good handwriting, not perfect. And yet Pinpoint is able to read it. If it looks like a doctor's script, it's not going to be readable. If your notes are only readable to you, that won't work either. But handwriting can be really powerful. Searching through handwriting, thinking about things like police reports, margin notes on bills, archival material. I did a training for Rolling Stone, like song lyrics when artists die, really interesting things that you could potentially search through handwriting for. Or if you write your own notes legibly, take photos of them, toss them in here, you'll be able to search through them.
Mary, if
Jeremy,
Google, yeah, if
yeah.
if you have a typo like or a commonly misspelled word, does Google kind of recognize that or not?
That has not come up. If something is misspelled or there's a typo, will they recognize? I don't think so.
Okay.
I think it's pretty literal, but
Okay.
that is a great question that I would love to ask the engineering team.
Because when you do a Google search, I'm always amazed, like, oh, I spelled this thing wrong or the name of the business wrong, but it still kind of knows what I'm searching
It makes
for.
that suggestion
Yeah,
for you. Yeah.
yeah.
Let's see if we can just try that. So I know Loomis is going to come up, right? So what if I do this? Yeah, it's still bringing up, if I typed in Loomis with a Z there instead of an S. I don't know, I'm not sure why this is taking so long to load, but I know this is my
Cool.
thing.
Yeah,
So yeah,
that's super.
great
That's a super
question.
useful. Yeah, that's super useful because, you know, especially for technical words or complicated names or whatever, people often might misspell it.
Absolutely. Yeah, excellent. Let's see, that makes me think of synonym search because we're essentially is akin to that. So I'm going to search for the word moon, which we would expect to show up a lot, and it does, 350 documents. The other thing though that Pinpoint is doing is it's recommending lunar. So it's saying, you know, I think of it as being helpful. I probably shouldn't personify the tool, but like, hey, if you want to know a bunch about the moon in this document, you probably want to see these things too. And I will add that your search modifiers will work in here. So if you say no Pinpoint, I really just want the word moon, I don't want lunar, thanks anyway, you could just take that out. So you can modify your searches in that way. When the green letters were found on the screen in the NASA image, how can we read them? I'm not sure I understand the question. Do you want to unmute?
Yes, it showed them in on one of the three screens that were in the image back there. How can we read that? How do we know what that says?
On the computer screens?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that the quality of the photo, that these words are not legible enough to be read. You would also have to know what you're searching for. So if you had a sense that a particular word might be on these screens, you could type it in, but I don't think that this photo would allow it. The only things that my guess that we would be able to search her in here are these. ET-TV and LA. Those are the only other things that my eyes can see in addition to Mission Manager over here. And my suspicion is that, again, the quality of the photo isn't good enough that these things can't be read.
Thank you.
Will it highlight, will it show you in some other way or list out the words that it does see? Or do you have
That's
to
my
be,
question.
or do you have to be
I
searching?
see. You have to be searching. Yeah.
Okay.
I see what you mean. I will say that, let's see, can I highlight this? So there are times, it looks like I can't do it on a photo. I have been able to do it on a document. When something is a photo of a document, that I can highlight all of those words and make them, and they are copy and pastable. So it's not true in every case that you might find, but it would be true on a document. Does that make sense?
Can I just toss in a quick note here? I use Text Sniper. I just used it during the session so far, Mary, to add to my notes the list of supported file types. And that
Cool.
I find works really well for the scenario that I think the person was asking about, where you could sort of just take a screenshot of that text and actually it will grab that and put it onto your clipboard.
Oh, nice.
So in the scenario that you were just talking about, that could be an alternative tool. It just sits in your menu bar. It's super easy and it's like $6 or something. So one-time purchase, and I'm not affiliated with them. I just use it a lot. So that's a little tip for anyone who
That's
wants
great.
to do that.
That's a pro tip. I love when tools get combined with each other. That's great. I see a question from HR. So can you upload book files, basically old books, and figure out patterns? Yes, I think you need to upload them in a supported file type, but that could be a photo, it could be a PDF, whatever you've got. And then in terms of figuring out patterns, what I would use for that, oops, I didn't want to go back to workspace, is that entity extraction. So I would be looking over here for the kinds of things that show up most often. You are limited to people, organizations, and locations. So if there's something else that you're looking for, you'll need to be searching for it. But I think effectively, yeah, that would be a really interesting use case. Cool. Okay, let's see. I'm going to check my list of what have I shown you so far. All right, let me show you the audio file. So this is an audio transcription. This was uploaded as an MP3. It gets converted to a PDF as it gets transcribed. I'm going to head into this transcription. And so I've searched for the words congratulate and Bobco. It's highlighted them here. You can see if you take a look at this, the copy editor in me wants to clean this up. And you can now. I can't edit this because it was uploaded before that functionality existed, but we're going to look at that. But I want you to just kind of see what the quality of the transcription is in English. I would call it pretty good, not perfect, but I think it gets you 85 to 90% of the way there. I have not compared this side by side with other tools like Trent or Otter. I hear those two probably most often, but it is free and it does it in multiple languages. And of course, you want to switch the language if you have a file in another language so that it doesn't anglicize something spoken in another language, right? That wouldn't be useful. The other thing that's happening here is I'm being prompted to go right to this point in the audio, which I love. So if I want to use this quote and I want to clean it up, I'm going to probably copy it. I'm going to listen to it. I'm going to take it over to my CMS, or if this were editable, and again, this one in particular is not, but everything that you would upload today forward will be editable. I can re-listen to it very quickly. I don't have to scrub around. I just hit play and I can clean that up and make it exactly perfect to match the record. So that's a little bit of what that looks like. I also want to share that your files are always re-downloadable. So if you've lost the original, you can always go to the menu, download your audio file again. You can download the transcript. You can grab a link to this document. So when you're working in really large document sets, that can be super helpful, particularly if you're collaborating on them. So a couple of interesting things in here as well. So speaking of those audio transcripts, let's go over to the one that we were working on. And I put that one in here. So this was the one that already was created. I had renamed that. So that's the new feature today, is renaming files, which sounds simple, but man, it is helpful. So we've looked at a bunch of file sets already that had some pretty ugly file names. And now we can click to edit and make those exactly what we need them to be. So I've had a couple of cases where I've uploaded files. I got excited and was like, hey, well, I want to put these in Pinpoint. And then I looked at them and I went, oh my God, I have no idea what's different from the first to the second. And I deleted them all and re-uploaded them with proper names. So this is just going to save you some of that time. So let's take a look at this. This is our transcript of that video. And so again, this was a piece of, it's actually misinformation, or it's actually disinformation, downloaded from TikTok, mostly real audio from Kamala Harris. But what they changed, and it went viral, was that she had truly said that virtually every person in the hospital sick right now with COVID is unvaccinated. And it was edited to make it sound like she said that they were vaccinated, right? So this is a piece of anti-vax disinformation. I can now go in and make this accurate and correct the record. So because I just uploaded this today, you saw I clicked on this little edit button. I can go in and make this correct, and I can clean up this whole thing. And there are a number of references to it. So that's kind of what that looks like. Again, just some really nice updated features that make the usability of this kind of thing a lot nicer. So we have some questions about, does it break down person changes or speaker changes? The short answer is no. Unfortunately, what it does is it breaks where there's a pause. And because Kamala Harris, like many politicians, speaks with a lot of pauses, that's why we have all of these breakdowns. If your audio is very clean and there's a pause after every speaker change, that's what will happen, but it won't name them and it won't break apart the speakers. So you will have sort of a mix and you'll have some crosstalk. But what you can do is take that in, you could edit it, or you could take it into a separate file and add in the speakers, that kind of thing. Let's see, catching up on questions. Is there an automation built in to translate a transcription in one language into another? Good question. No, there is not. You will need to use a separate tool like Google Translate. It's just a separate step though, right? Of course, you get your transcription in the language it was spoken in, and you can then go take it over to Google Translate and have that translated into another Nico says the people that are extracted are only famous people. Yeah, public figures, right? So if there is a John Doe named a million times, I would not recognize it. It would pull them together if John Doe showed up as John Doe each time, right? So if it shows up as just John Doe with no middle initial or no misspelling, then you can click on John Doe and it will show you the million times that it shows up. But if it's John J. Doe 3 other times, I believe that Pinpoint is going to break that out as a separate person because you can't teach it that they're the same. We have had that request for large document sets for journalists. It doesn't exist right now, but that is a useful piece of feedback that the team has definitely heard. How can you choose between having the PDF show times on the audio or not? Yes, you can't choose. They'll always be there. I believe that there is a way to download the transcript without those audio stamps. So you might give that a try, or you may need to manually clean them up. So they will always be there. That isn't a setting that you can turn off and on, but that's a good question. And so we can see now, I can call this Kamala edit or something like that, just to show you how that works. I can also add labels. So I could stick a label on this as a way of just organizing my files, and I can go, oh yeah, I use that in Wonder Tools. So I can now click on that label, right, and go show me everything I've added that label to, just as a way of organizing things a little bit better. I want to show you another way of organizing information. I'm going to go into a different collection. I'm sorry for all the going in and backing out, but just sort of the nature of it. I'm going to go into this set of Trump investigation documents. This is actually what I referenced, that I had to go back in and re-upload all of these. And this is just a number of documents related to the Mar-a-Lago search. And the reason, the initial reason that I put it in here, well, certainly it's very interesting. But when I saw this photo, which you all will recognize, oops, that's not the photo, folder photo. I searched for the term top secret, and it's actually going to highlight the words top secret on a number of these photos. So you can see I've got a green highlighter here, a green highlighter here. I also know, and your eyes can probably see too, that these 3 folders also say top secret. It's just not easily read by Pinpoint. This is a screenshot of the image, so the file quality has been compressed along the way. But pretty interesting if you're going, text is within a photo somewhere in that room, or it's like a meme and you've got, you know, a text added to the photo, it will be searchable. I want to also show you, I'm going to go in here. So here's another reference to top secret, that if I go, okay, I want to remember this point in my text. Once I've highlighted it, I get this little pop-up menu. Let me just let go of this. It's not wanting me to, there we go. I have 3 options. I can highlight it, which can turn it yellow. I can copy it, which I may want to do. And you can see this is just a PDF, or I can highlight it and get the link. And that's what I want to show you. So I'm both turning it yellow, and I have a deep link to this point in my document set on my clipboard now. And I'm going to just open up a new document and show you what that deep link looks like. Paste that in. Here it is. So this could be a way that I'm keeping track of, I got to come back to this point, right? Or I'm sending these to my editor or my fellow reporter or my collaborator. And then just to kind of bring this full circle, I'm going to click on this again, and it's going to take us exactly to that point. And again, just want to remind you, this won't work in a public facing way. It will work for anyone you've shared your collection to. Also, in that sort of your collaborators are only view only status right now, they can't also do this. So the owner of the collection can do only these things like highlight, like label, like edit transcriptions, really make changes to that corpus of documents. Okay, let's see. Catching up on questions. Can you share a collection with a Google group and not just individuals? I don't know. I haven't tried. I love that question. I would say give it a shot and see what happens and let me know. I can also ask, but you'll probably arrive at the answer before I can. Well, maybe let's see what happens. Let me think of what is a Google group that I'm in. Okay, so I don't think that any of my groups are coming up. I can't think of how one begins in particular, but I would expect those to come up the way that I just typed them in Gmail, and they're not here. This is connected to my personal Gmail. But give it a shot if you have one organized sort of perfectly. Lucy says, I have a video that's partly in 2 different languages. How do I handle that? There's no great way to do it, unfortunately. What you might try is running it twice, once in English and once in Russian, and see what happens. See if you can sort of take different parts of that. I think that would probably work. It will be some extra steps, but Pinpoint doesn't, once you set that language, it's going to apply it to everything spoken. So I know that doesn't work for a lot of how language is used, but that's how the tool operates right now. And Nico says, when you start a project, how private is it if you have sensitive data on the documents? Great question. I'm so glad that you asked that one. It's so important. So the way to think about it is that Pinpoint has the same security and privacy settings as Gmail and Google Drive. So if those are tools you're comfortable using for that type of work, then this matches and aligns with that. You can also look at the FAQ for some deeper answers on that. If you have more specific questions, I'm happy to connect you with the team. So I would say if it's not a document that you're comfortable emailing, you probably don't want it in Pinpoint either. It's the kind of thing on a case-by-case basis that you may want to decide this belongs in there and this other thing does not. But yeah, really important question. And again, just to emphasize, everything that you upload is private to you unless you choose to share it. That share functionality is a very particular action that I don't think you can accidentally do it. You can't accidentally make it public. Google is not looking at your documents. It's not using them for learning. It's not bringing them in the knowledge graph. They're not going to show up in search results. None of that is happening. They are private to you. And again, unless you choose to share them. Okay, I think we're caught up on questions. Let's see here. Just checking my notes. Okay, I think those are all of the main features I wanted to show you. I'd love to show you some case studies, and I can head back to the slides to do that. But before I just kind of leave the tool and demo area, I'll just check in for any additional questions.
Is this accessible across countries, or are there certain country limitations?
I believe there may be some country limitations in certain places, and I don't know enough to kind of rattle them off. Okay. I'm trained to just train for it in the US where it's fully available. So I would say that folks may need to just check that out. I'll also call out way down here is the help link, and that's where you can find some more of the FAQs. So that's a great question. Oh, here's another just way of emphasizing the privacy and security, new private collection, right? It's just making it really clear that's what you're doing here. Okay, I'm going to just talk through a few case studies just to kind of bring it all home, but feel free to keep typing questions in. Oh, Ambar says, is it easy to cross-use with Zoom or auto recordings? I think so, yeah. I have not. Have I put a Zoom in there? I think I did. I think that was that video example that I shared. Previously, if you broke the audio track out of a Zoom, you could toss that in, but now you should be able to put the whole video in. It should be fine. It should be just as good as any other video. What I've also done just to test it is done a little voice memo on my phone, emailed it to myself, dropped it in, and let it work. And that's a 4-minute test. So I've had questions around heavily accented English or things like that, you know, everybody's voice is going to be different. But if you're curious about how could it handle this or that, just give that a try. It works so quickly that you'll usually arrive at the answer pretty quickly. Good one. Okay, so let's talk about those case studies. We've got about 5 or 6 minutes to go. I'll call out that the Boston Globe has been using it, and they use this in their Pulitzer winning series from 2020, in which they won the 2021 Pulitzer in investigative reporting. So they use it to make sense of those documents. And then they also used it, this is the one that I always think of when I think about writing a story on deadline. So getting a bunch of documents back from a public records request, they got them back, you know, they're usually not in great shape. Some things are sideways, you know, upside down, illegible. And yet by uploading them as a large set into Pinpoint, they were able to go, we can write these stories on deadline. We can do it today. Instead of, I'm going to print all of this out, lock myself in this room and not emerge until I have digested all 800 pages. So again, deadline-based reporting using entity extraction. Maria Ressa, wonderful Maria Ressa, has been using it for a number of years. She's used it in a bunch of her work. I think that speaks volumes about the tool and her trust in it. I like this example from Dance Magazine because the reporter used the audio transcription in order to write this story. So they interviewed a number of dancers about the SAG-AFTRA contract that was on the table. And the way that I think of it is, let's say you interview 7 people kind of about the same thing, and you put all of that audio and let it all transcribe again while you're maybe doing another interview. It's working in the background. And then you can search through all of that as a whole. So Pinpoint really shines when you have multiple documents, and search through all of them for keywords. Like in the case of a contract like this, maybe it's healthcare, maybe it's cost of living, whatever the issues on the table were. So as you're organizing your information, writing your story or whatever you're working on, you're going, oh, let me pull out a quote from everybody who talked about the healthcare in this contract, for example, doesn't match my needs, right? And so you can really make sense of those transcripts in a way that not only is just doing the transcription for you, which is a win, but taking those multiple ones and looking for themes, searching for themes around them can be really useful. The Post has used it for a number of years. They used it to, in their Mueller reporting, a number of these stories. And then they also used it to build a corpus of January 6th documentation. And if you think about at an organization like the Post that touches national, politics, local, it's a story that crosses a lot of reporting areas. And so they could create one large corpus of documentation and thinking about all of the things that were part of both January 6th, the day, and all the things that were reported and recorded on that day, photos taken, et cetera. And then also all the documentation that came out afterward, that they can share that across their organization with a number of people, and one person can manage that. So that's where I think that that's kind of view only setting is a win. If you're the maintainer of that document collection, you want to make sure everything that you've put in there stays in there. That's the way that works. The Baltimore Sun, one of my former newsrooms, has used it, and I called this out a little bit earlier. So inside the Explore collections is a set of, it's the FBI documents on Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And so this reporter, ahead of Martin Luther King Day in January, just went into that collection, searched for Baltimore, found some interesting references to Dr. King's time in Baltimore, and was able to write a really interesting historical story based off of that document set. So they're there to poke around and help learn and make sense of Pinpoint, but they can also be there to help tell stories and look at those primary documents. I love this one from this outlet in Mexico called Verificado, a fact-checking outlet. What they essentially were able to do is fact check in real time or close to real time, which is almost impossible to do, by comparing a transcript of what was spoken by the president. So make a recording of, let's say, a press conference. And then later, when the president's office releases, here's what he said today, and simply compare those two things and go, these don't match. So his team said, this is what he said, but we know this is actually what he said because we have the recording. So I often think about this example on like State of the Union night, where you get that preview of the speech, if you're lucky, 5 minutes beforehand, and you just compare in real time. Oh, this is where they went off script. This is where this thing changed. This is where applause broke out, something happened. So comparing to essentially transcripts of an event and being able to compare the two and pull out what's different. And then another former newsroom of mine, USA Today, they've also been using this, the investigative team, for several years. Previous to being called Pinpoint, it was called Backlight, if that rings a bell to anyone. And this reporter in particular, Marissa Kwiatkowski, was using it at that time. And they've used it for, I would call this like a classic USA Today story, where we're trying to determine what is the status of X in all 50 states. So putting out public records requests across the country, not getting everything back that you asked for. And then what Marissa has talked about is not only can Pinpoint help you find your story in that document set, but you can also then move out a bunch of documents that you're not going to need for this. So you can go, okay, I've narrowed in, here's what we're writing about. I'm going to keep these 300 and I'm going to save these other 3,000 for another day. You could put them in a different collection. You could delete them, do whatever you like. So not only can it point you in the right direction, it can also just help you separate the wheat from the chaff. All right, and one more question from Wendy. Does Pinpoint compare to files for you, or do you have to use another tool? Tell me what that means, Wendy. I'm not sure I understand that one.
You were mentioning taking a transcript, an actual transcript of a speech
Ah.
versus what the press office puts out. Will
Yes.
Pinpoint look at those two and tell you what's different?
No, that would be amazing. That one, you're going to have to look at the two side by side and do the comparison. Great question. I didn't explain that fully in depth. So we are right at time. I'm happy to take more questions, feedback. I would also, I've got this other survey up for just what you thought of the training. I'm looking at the chat. What else do we have? How are we doing, Jeremy?
This has been fantastic, at least from my personal perspective. I think there's so much in there that you showed about how to actually use it and great examples that bring it to life. So I think, and you've answered all the questions along the way, as far as I can tell. I think there's
a nice tool recommendation here at the end.
And yeah,
thank you, Ian.
Bill's mentioning about the 2 docs on the screen.
That's cool.
You can do a split screen with the Arc browser, which lets you do a side by side if you don't have an official, feature for that, or if you want multiple ones. BL, that maybe that would be a solution too.
Lucy says, is there a text manual that says what you have told us? So yes and no. The short answer is no, there's no manual. In the promo for this session, Jeremy shared our sort of breakdown of how Pinpoint works. And we also have, let me just go over here. Please let this be the right link. It looks like it is. I don't know why it's taking so long, but I'll just type it in here. So at g.co/news training, we have a number of trainings that you can walk through on all of our tools at your own pace. They tend to actually be pretty short, usually 5 to 10 minutes. And there is a Pinpoint walkthrough. So I would recommend that one. And then I would add the caveat that, as we talked about, new functionality is being rolled out all the time. So it may not be fully up to date, but you saw a lot of that today. So I know that I threw a lot at you. Hopefully it's enough to make you curious about the tool and give it a try. I'd love to know how it's going, any interesting use cases that you've used it for. If you can't use it, if you go, this thing's a deal breaker and because it doesn't do X, I can't use it, I'm happy to pass that along. But particularly case studies, if you use it for something interesting, I'd love to know. It helps me bring the tool alive for other folks. So I use a lot of journalistic use cases. That's typically who I train. I know we have folks that have other jobs too. So help me think about how it's helpful. That would be my ask for you all.
Thank you,
I
Mary.
will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Great.
sorry.
I'm putting in the, sorry, one more thing is I'm just putting that survey link in the chat. Many of you, being very tools adept, have already visited the mobile site, but just the survey link again is on there. Sorry, go ahead.
Great. No, that's great. I just want to thank you one more time. Thank everyone for coming, taking time in the middle of the day. We're going to try to do these periodically for Wonder Tools readers who are interested in these kinds of things. You've kicked us off in a really terrific way for this series. So thank you for that and for sharing so much info and for being part of the team that's creating these useful tools. I find them really useful, this one and some of the other Journal Studio resources are really, really helpful and easy to use, which is a big plus for those of us. Yeah, probably includes most people here that are just too busy to have the opportunity to learn very complicated software. So it's super helpful that it's pretty easy to use. Good. And once you use it, it's yours. So yeah, we want to do, don't make me think, make it simple. And Whitney, Whitney, please share with us how this turns out. This new project you're doing with 200 police reports. That sounds great and interesting and challenging project, but hopefully the tool will be helpful. Oh, cool. Excellent. I want to invite everyone also, you'll get the Luma survey just about the event. That just gives me a sense of how helpful this is and how, whether we should continue scheduling these kinds of workshops. So if you could just reply to that, it's a quick 1 question thing, just letting us know if this is useful for you. You get that from Luma. I think that's it. You've got a few more minutes for your hour, everyone. So enjoy the rest of your hour. And thanks for joining today. And again, thanks, Mary, for this excellent workshop. Excellent. Thanks for the opportunity. Happy holidays, everyone. Appreciate you all so much. Thanks.